Just let me know when you're ready.
It's ready to go.
Okay.
Thank
Good
you,
evening,
Ed.
everyone. Yep. Hello. And our objective today, and I'm kind of stepping into the forefront here, is Carolyn and I have talked a lot about today. And I am going to be bringing the elementary perspective to the discussion tonight, particularly what you can expect in the first day and maybe even the first week of school. I know you've had very successful practicum placements already last year. This year is going to fly by because your practicum placements are even more numerous, and that's a good thing. But it is quite interesting to have the first day of school in an elementary setting. Carolyn will bring the secondary perspective, as well as her role, the new role in terms of her mandate in the teacher ed office. So from the elementary perspective, and you know what, before I even begin, I want to say Happy New Year. Happy New Year, everybody. That's what you might hear the first day of school, everybody saying, Happy New Year, blah, humbug. But at the elementary perspective, the first day of school actually looks like organized chaos. There's excitement, there's a lot of anxiety on students' parts and teachers' parts and staff parts and principals' parts, because it's a new year, and new year bring new opportunities and new excitements and new challenges. But the first day, I would really suggest that you get out there and help with the art supervision. I am already making an assumption that you have been in touch with your practicum or your associate teacher this week, because I would say in 99.9% of the schools across the province, teachers are in school this week getting ready. And I would say that your first strategy would be to contact your associate teacher and say, how can I help you and how can I help the school? But that first morning, every teacher is out in yard duty. And gone are the days, well, I better not say this is 100%, but gone are the days when schools put class lists and names of students beside teachers on the outside doors a couple of days before school starts. And the reason for that is, unfortunately, there was an experience, it has to be almost 20 years ago, where a non-custodial parent showed up at school and tried to apprehend one of the children. And so for security and safety reasons, schools no longer do that. So most schools will have students go to their former teachers or former classrooms at the beginning of the day, and then somebody comes in and leads that class to either the new class, or teachers will have their names on a bulletin board and student names and start calling out names after the bell goes. Like I said, it's organized chaos. So talk to your associate teacher. How can you help him or her? How can you help the school? And how can you help with the organization aspect and the supervision aspect that first day? So many schools, and you'll find this probably more so, unfortunately, in Corey schools, have a lot of new students, Sometimes we hope that parents have already been in this week to register their children as new students in the school, but many, many times parents are showing up with their children on the first day of school to register. And the lineups in an office can be quite numerous. So anything you can assist or anything you can do in terms of crowd control would be really appreciated by the principal and the secretary, the secretaries in an office. Ask if you, and you might have, a name tag already that you can wear so that parents and other staff understand that you're there as a teacher candidate. It's always helpful when someone comes up to a new parent in school and they see a name tag that you're associated with the school. And I can tell you that help is always appreciated. I remember one time when I was assisting with the registration of a 5-year-old in kindergarten at one of our local schools here in the city of London, and I'd finished the registration form and turn it around to the parent to make sure everything was accurate, and the 5-year-old took the registration form and ate it in front of me and ate it in front of her mom. So I was kind of agog at that, and I suggested, well, maybe they might want to take this registration home and fill it out at home and then bring it back an hour or so from now. And I felt sorry for the teacher who's going to have the student in the class, but that's okay. So be prepared for anything. Absolutely. Help is always appreciated. So I've talked about yard supervision. If you have had an opportunity to go in and visit your associate teacher, ask if you can walk around the school and maybe get a map of the school and the classes, because one of the things that really is helpful is that after a student has registered, or students are lost in the playground, and mostly the younger students are with their parents, you know what? You might be asked to escort that student and the parent to the new classroom so the student and the parent can meet the teacher. And it doesn't look so professional if you're wandering around the school saying, I know that classroom's around here somewhere. So get to know the layout of the school. I wouldn't be surprised if your associate teacher is up to it and open to it, that you're asked to assist with the registration process, whether that's handing out registration forms or helping parents fill in the registration form. The average grade level of reading amongst the adult population is grade 4. And registration forms are not written at the grade 4 level. And so many parents, especially new Canadians, will have a difficult time understanding the registration form and the areas they're supposed to fill in. The other thing is, if you are asked to do that, ask the office staff, the secretary, before the bell goes, what documentation the parents need to show you to verify their address and the age of the student and that vaccinations are up to date. So I'm not sure somebody will ask you to assist with the registration. It all depends on the number of new students coming in. So what you'll find in the first day, there's seldom any rotary, so students are in their homeroom all day. Anything you can do to assist, although at this point in time, I don't think your associate teacher would ask you, or nor should they ask you, to supervise a classroom by yourself. But anything you can do to work with small groups, assist students in your class, that will go a long way in helping the day pass successfully. And of course, one of the things that we told you last year was, if you have an opportunity, talk to your associate teacher about the incoming students. He or she should have been able to go through the OSRs. Ask if you can access any information that you need. For example, if there are students who are coming to the classroom with special needs, maybe that's something that you can assist with. Students usually with special needs thrive on consistency and communication. So anything, again, that you can do to assist with that will go a long way. So that's it in a nutshell. Basically, it's helping new students with the supervision in the playground, helping new students go to their classes, helping your associate teacher bring the students into the classroom and start. The first day, the teacher is going to be outlining expectations, timetable, handing out information. A lot of information is handed out to students in the elementary in the first day. There are insurance packages that are to go home. There are usually newsletters, introductory newsletters of the staff and of the teacher. There'll be information sent out to parents about expectations, attendance. There may be a school website where the teacher has his or her own link on the school website. So a lot of distribution. And at the end of the day, making sure the students have all that information in their backpacks or in their pockets on their way home. The biggest thing, as I've said before, and it's okay to repeat it, please get into that school, meet with your associate teacher this week if you can, set up a telephone call if you can't make it in, and ask for a map of the school, ask for any newsletter that the principal's given staff in terms of first day expectations. Many schools, the principal will have an assembly or auditorium where he or she will map out school expectations of the students, just to break up the monotony of a full day inside a classroom. So Yang, I'm going to stop there because I know Carolyn has some information from the secondary school perspective, We are really looking forward to working with you, and we are here to assist you so that you have every opportunity to experience high level of success in your practicum placements. So, as I said earlier, Happy New Year.
So over to me. Thank you, Bill, for all of that information. That was terrific. And hello, everybody, all the teacher candidates who have joined us and some still joining us, which is terrific. I am delighted to be here to have the opportunity to speak with all of you and to respond to your questions. I hope you've had a great summer and you're ready for this new academic year. I know we are very excited about what's ahead for all of us this school year. I will also begin by letting you know that I am the new manager of practicum in the pre-service education office and also teaching social foundations again this year. So those are the roles that I have. You'll be hearing more from me, no doubt, in my new role supervising practicum, overseeing that and the placements. So no doubt we'll be in touch on a number of issues related to that this year. To begin, as Bill said, I'm going to give a perspective from working in a secondary school, keeping in mind some of the similarities, but also some of the differences in terms of what Bill has shared. I'd also like to just begin by reminding you that a lot of information about solid practices, about professionalism, about your evaluation, about the expectations for this third practicum can be found in the practicum handbook. And Yang, I believe you were going to post links for the candidates, just a reminder of where you can find material on our teacher education website. So just a reminder to everybody to visit that site, to check out the practicum handbook once again, to remind, so you can all be reminded of what's in that in terms of the resources that are available for active observation, for the expectations of practicum 3. You'll see the evaluation form in there for your associate teachers. So there's quite a bit of information there as well, just to remind you that that's available. And the other thing I'll say also on general terms is to remember to check out the Ministry of Education website, right? For curriculum documents, for exemplars that might be useful to you depending on what level you're teaching at or what teachable you have. Just a reminder that there are some terrific resources, examples of literacy across the curriculum, to name one resource that exists across the curriculum at every grade level. So there's a lot of material there, so don't forget to check out the ministry site and related links as well. So as Bill said in his comments, schools are very busy communities all the time, but especially this time of year, right? As everything is beginning and teachers and students are finding their way and finding their places in the school and in the classrooms that they'll be working from. I wanted to mention also that we're aware that there are some school boards in the province that are still hiring even this week. So there's lots going on this week and next week, certainly in schools. Bill shared a lot of really valuable suggestions and reminders that certainly apply across the board, I think. I'll just highlight a few things that you will probably really notice and you can really watch out for during the first week in a secondary school. You'll find that there's a real focus that first week on building the school community and all that that entails. You'll find there's a real focus on academics, on making sure that students have the timetable that they need, the course selection is in order for them, they are in the right courses, the right place at the right time. You'll find that there is a great deal of effort that goes into making course changes where they're necessary for students, making those changes early in the school year, as early as possible within the first couple of weeks. And then another thing that you'll really notice is a real focus on extracurricular activities. So lots of announcements for teams, for clubs, for organizations, lots of opportunities to connect with students within the school and in the larger community as well. There'll be lots of meetings called before school, after lunch, at lunch, and after school for students interested in any number of initiatives. And so that's something that you can keep in mind and perhaps consider becoming involved in if you're interested at all. Find out what your associate teacher is responsible for or taking charge of. That might be something you'd like to accompany him or her in terms of their work. Maybe there are other areas that you're interested in helping out, whether it's a sports team or the drama club or what have you. So lots to think about there, just to watch how the administration and the teachers in the school and the support staff will all be working to really build that school community. The other thing that will be interesting within a classroom, within the class, is just to pay attention again to what your associate teacher is managing and handling that first day, that first week. Some associate teachers will be in the same classroom all day long. Others will be traveling from room to room, depending on what they're teaching. They could be teaching a number of different courses in different areas. So the environment of the classroom becomes something that's kind of interesting as well. It's quite different often from what you see in an elementary school. Some teachers really strive to give it a sense of permanence and place, even though they're moving from room to room and sometime from the main building to a portable. So that's something interesting to observe. There will be opportunities, no doubt, within the class to support those students who are grappling with their courses, with timetable changes and so on. You can observe and help where appropriate, help the associate teacher and the student navigate some of those changes, find their way around the building. Bill talked about the importance of a school map, which can be useful for teachers and for students. There'll be an opportunity to learn about and to watch attendance and the policies that are put into practice, the approaches that the teachers will have for taking attendance, for managing the classroom, for organizing what they need to. The other thing that teachers will be paying attention to are the IPRCs. So the special placements and recommendations for students that have special needs in the classroom. So typically, secondary school teacher will receive their class list and also receive the IPRC documents that they need for those students in their classes that have special needs that need to be attended to. So it will be interesting to talk to the associate teacher about how they're planning to meet those needs and how those needs might impact on the other students in the class, on the classroom community, and the ways in which teachers and students will strive to build an equitable, inclusive classroom. And just branching off from that topic a little bit, you were all involved in social foundations last year, so you will be aware of many of the policies and practices that administrators and teachers will be implementing, whether it's a Safe Schools initiative, whether it deals with equity and inclusion, just to name two examples. Building the school community is something that will be important in terms of implementing policy as well. So I invite you to observe that and pay attention to what you can in terms of what you learned in social foundations. You'll see some of that coming into practice, no doubt, early in the school year. So lots to observe, lots to learn from. So maybe I'll stop there as well, and we look forward to your questions. And Bill, I don't know if you have anything you want to add at this point based on what I said, but of course we could go on and on, Bill and I, but I'm open to your comments, Bill, and then we can take some questions.
Well, why don't we just start with the questions? And I have a feeling our questions will guide the remainder of the session.
Very good.
So if you have
Yang?
any question regarding what Bill and Carolyn have talked about, feel free to just post them in the chat box. You can also find the links that are posted to the reference of the links Carolyn talked about. It's a quiet session.
Well, we must have covered everything then.
They're very ready for September.
Very good.
Well, I'm very envious because, oh, here we go.
Okay, Bill wants to give a recap. Elementary. I'm just kidding.
So not really a question. I came late and missed everything Bill has said.
Yeah, and what we can do is after we conclude the session, I don't mind going over it again.
Oh, there is a recording. So the recording will be put up to share with everyone. So it will come in a video format. So you can watch over that if that's the part you missed.
Well, the only thing I would add is at the elementary level, on the first day of school, there's a collective prayer that it isn't a rain day. Because on a rain day, everybody usually congregates inside the gym. And if you think it's bedlam outside in the playground, oh my goodness, wait till everybody's inside the gym. It's also not, you know what, one day in your class is an excellent opportunity to get to know the kids by the end of the first day.
So question, I currently do not know where I will be placed. Is there anything I should be doing to be prepared?
Carolyn, do you want to take
speak on that to start, Bill? Sure, and jump in if you want to. So as I mentioned, school communities are very busy places still this week, and we are aware that staffing is still being finalized with some of the boards where we do in fact need to place candidates. But we have been reassured by principals and vice principals that you need not worry, that they are on our side and they're going to be making sure everything works out. Probably, we would anticipate that all candidates will know where they're going by the end of this week. We're very hopeful. In terms of general preparation, certainly you'll know that the level that you're going to. You'll know the board in which you will be placed. So it might be worthwhile to visit the board website to see if there are in fact newsletters there for parents, any news bulletins that have been sent out as the school year is beginning. Perhaps notices about any routines or any of the activities that will be coming up early in the school year, any of the policies or priorities that the board has established for this academic year. I think there's quite a bit that you could do that way in terms of your homework leading up to the practicum. And as I said, we anticipate that for those students who are still waiting for their placement to be finalized, we expect to hear from those principals this week. So we will be keeping you posted.
And actually, the meeting we had this afternoon, Carolyn, you were getting phone calls as the meeting was going on from schools in terms of successful placement. So it's an ongoing process. We wish we could do it faster and more streamlined, but the reality is we are guests of the school boards, and we can't go marching in. We have to wait until they're ready to receive us.
That's right. Yeah, thank you, Bill. That's a great point.
Okay, and the question from Leo is, I'm a teacher that will be traveling between classes. Do you have any specific advice for me? Teaching PJ Core French to 3 grade levels and multiple classes.
So French a la carte means going from class to class. Yeah, I do have advice. And if you have the timetable and you met with the associate teacher, again, that associate teacher more than likely knows the dynamics and the expectations of teachers, knows the dynamics of the classes based on the students. Usually the turnover isn't sufficient enough to totally change the climate inside a classroom. So What are the teachers' expectations? So you have a list of the teachers' classes you're going in. So what are their expectations in terms of your ability to use some of the stuff in the class? Because some teachers are very territorial. They've had a negative experience and maybe a projector has broken. I don't know. The classes that you're going into, are there IEPs? So you actually have a little bit more work on your hands than someone who's placed in one class. The thing about being an itinerant staff member is, again, not too many schools, I don't know of any schools, especially in Thames Valley, that have Rotary on the first day of school. When I was an itinerant, when I was in a special ed resource position, I just didn't sit in my office all day while the teachers were teaching all day on the first day of school. So you might want to work out something with your associate teacher that the two of you go into different classes and spell off the homeroom teacher so that they have a bit of a break. It also gives you an opportunity to introduce yourself to those new students or to the new classes, and you can set expectations and procedures and routines right at the get-go. And I would strongly recommend you do that.
Thanks, Bill. Question from Nikki: Is there the potential is there a potential that some of us may not know our practicum until after September 5th? What happens then?
Carolyn, do you want to go for that one?
Sure, yes, I can. Thanks, Bill. Well, I suppose that's always a possibility. If, in fact, I know one board is interviewing until Thursday, so their staffing will be established at the very end of the week. We're hopeful that candidates will be in schools for the 5th, but certainly you will be in schools that very first week. I know in years past, associate teachers have been ill. There have been circumstances that have prevented them receiving a candidate on the very first day. But generally speaking, schools know how important it is to for the teacher candidates to get out into the schools to begin their placement. So generally, they'll work with us to make arrangements so that that is possible. But of course, there is also always a remote possibility that absolutely starting at 8:30 or 8:45 on that very first day may not work out. But we're optimistic everything will fall into place. I don't know if you'd like to add anything, Bill, from a school board perspective.
I would. I mean, if this is not of your doing, if this is something that you have no control over, you are not going to be penalized for that. But the whole intentionality of having you start the first day of school and be in school the first week is so that you can experience what it's like starting up a school and to assist you in developing an awareness of what needs to occur from a classroom teacher's perspective. What needs to happen to prepare for the first day of school? It's a lot of work. And in years past, we haven't been very successful in getting our teacher candidates into school that first day, let alone the first week in September. So this is a bit of a coup for us in being able to convince school boards to do that. So the whole intentionality is so that when you do get your own classroom, not if, but when you get your own classroom, you have some idea in terms of what needs to be done, what needs to be accomplished, what planning needs to occur to make sure that when your students walk in at 9 o'clock in the morning or 8:45, everything's ready to go. But I'll say it again, if you are, for some reason, we're not able to have you there the first day or so, and it's not of your doing, you will not be penalized.
Okay, so question from Alicia. Do you have any advice for our evaluations that will take place either this practicum or during our 4th?
Yang, can you repeat that again, please?
Do you have any advice for our evaluations that will take place either this practicum or during our 4th?
Well, advice in terms of the evaluations. I guess the way I'm going to interpret that is, what advice do I have for second-year students going into their practicum placements? That's the way I'm going to approach this. Hopefully I'm interpreting the question correctly. So you are going to spend a lot of time in classes second year, and this year, as I said earlier, is going to fly by. But this is where the rubber hits the road, and principals and screeners will be looking at your practicum placements, especially in second year, and especially as the year progresses. What I've said to, I remember saying this to my Social Foundations 2 groups last year, no principal expects your first couple of placements in the first year to be perfect. They will look to see a steady progress in terms of accumulation of skill sets, abilities, classroom management, lesson planning, implementation, collaboration, outside the classroom participation and support. So my advice, you do what you can, you do your very best, you work closely with your associate teacher, and if there's any hint of a problem or if something you feel is going off the rails, you need to get in touch with us so that we can be there to support you.
And
Carol?
also just a reminder to look at the expectations for Practicum 3 and Practicum 4. So that's all in the handbook, and Yang posted those links for you. So revisit that so you're aware of the expectations and what your associate teacher will be looking for. And Bill spoke to that in terms of what the expectations are like in general. And keep in mind, your associate teacher recognizes that this is still part of your program, right? That you're still learning, that this is an evolving process for you, as it is even for practicing teachers, right? You're always learning and always hopefully improving and developing your pedagogical approaches and evaluation strategies and so on. But the expectations for the placements themselves for 3 and 4 that we've made available should help you in that regard. And as Bill said, if you have questions or concerns, just let us know. We're here to help.
Great, thanks. Another question from Ashley. I do know my teacher and school, but the practicum website doesn't specify grade or teachable. I haven't heard back from my associate teacher. Would Western have this information?
If you want to contact me after the session, Ashley, I would be happy to check into that for you and see if, in fact, that has been submitted to us.
Okay, so I will post your email in the chat box so Ashley can email you, Carolyn.
That's perfect, Yang. Thank you.
All right, and let me just, Rebecca, I have a question. Are we required to do any online training like we have in the past, for example, health and safety, for this placement? If so, where do we find the training modules, and do we need to, where do we find the training modules we need for our board?
Okay, I can take that one on, and Carolyn, just pipe in. So
Yeah,
most
sure.
school boards have their own links to whether it's WMIS or health and safety training. So that would be a really good question to see what the expectation of the board is and what the legislation says in terms of updates. Some school boards have differing expectations in terms of first aid responders. That's something you might want to ask. But usually, I can't remember if WMIS is an annual upgrade or biannual. I can't recall that. But everybody went through it last year. You had to in terms of going to schools. But school boards, to cut to the chase, usually have their own web links to required updates.
Okay, so are we qualified, from Alicia, are we qualified to teach or co-teach a subject that is not considered as one of our teachables?
Well, I recall, yes. I mean, if your associate teacher is teaching a subject that is not part of one of your teachables, I'm going on a limb here, Carolyn, but I think if you're in agreement and the associate teacher's in agreement and we're okay with it, I don't see why you wouldn't try it. I don't think it's going to be held against you if if something fails, but I know that when you graduate, you may not necessarily be hired to teach your teachables. There's a mutual agreement clause in the Education Act that allows teachers to teach outside their qualified areas. So, for example, when I moved from secondary contract to elementary, I was outside my intermediate senior specialist by teaching a grade 4 or 5 split. Well, I did that on a letter of permission. Carolyn?
Right, you're absolutely right, Bill. And often teacher candidates will find, you'll find that whatever your teachable is, you may be placed with an associate teacher that does not have a full timetable in that area. And it may be almost impossible to find an associate teacher that has a full timetable only in one discipline, in one area, one teachable. So yes, it's fairly common for candidates to be asked to try something out, even though it's not perhaps in their area of specialty, because it is part of the associate teacher's timetable. But as Bill said, you know, that wouldn't be, you know, if you struggled a bit with it, for example, that wouldn't be held against you in terms of your evaluation. But the associate teachers tend to make all of their experiences available to the teacher candidates, so that you have just that much more opportunity to practice classroom management or particular strategies, or you know, working with small groups or large group sessions or whatever it may be. So they will most certainly make probably many things available to you that may not fit neatly into your teachable, but certainly, you know, you're welcome to and encouraged to give things a try.
Well, and here's the other thing. I mean, if you're worried about that, Carolyn just talked about principals and school boards still hiring up until Thursday. You know, as a school principal, there were times I had to phone or go down to a teacher's classroom and I was scheduled to teach grade 8 and say, "I'm sorry, Mr. Smith, you're now teaching grade 6." So, yeah, and that's reality in elementary panel. I mean, it's not prevalent, but it's not unusual either. But if you've already met with your associate teacher, you may want to call Friday or email Friday saying, "Are we still good? Everything we talked about, are we still on the game plan?" Just so that you're not surprised when you walk into school Tuesday morning.
And you know, the idea is that, again, associate teachers just want you to have a wealth of opportunities, a wealth of experiences, and they'll open up all kinds of things to you, you know, just so you can have as rich an experience as possible. Obviously, the evaluation piece would be connected to your teachable, to that specific assignment for you, but you'll have the opportunity, hopefully, to try out, you know, many different experiences and strategies and be involved in many different situations. So see it as an opportunity, not, you know, something that's punitive or something that isn't advantageous, right? Yeah, there'll be lots that you can get involved in, not necessarily tied to your teachable. And sometimes associate teachers will encourage you even to go and observe a teacher in another classroom, maybe who has fantastic classroom management strategies, even though that's not your teachable, right? So they'll just want you to gain as much as you can from this placement.
Thank you, Carolyn. So there is a question, if you're not looking at the chat, about if you're getting another smart notebook code this year. The answer is yes. And I will send an email to the second year, since you won't be coming into the building, with the new smart notebook code. And we're just waiting to get that from Smart Technology. And moving on, Alicia, the one who inquired about evaluation, says, the information was great for our teacher evaluations, but I was actually wondering about what to expect for the evaluation that Western conducts, where someone comes to watch us teach. and roughly
Oh,
when those evaluations begin within the practicum.
okay. Now that's Caroline's ball game.
And that makes sense. I understand now. So those evaluations will be happening towards the end of the third placement, if they happen during the third placement, or in the final practicum block. So for many candidates, it will happen in the very last practicum block. There may be some that take place at the end of the third practicum experience. But again, the people who will be coming out to complete those evaluations will see it as a real opportunity to have a great discussion with you, an opportunity for real review and reflection, and that in itself, I think, will be a really positive experience. You'll get lots of great feedback, lots of suggestions, so that is meant to also be part of the learning experience. And something that's positive, right? And not at all punitive. So I think it's something you can look forward to for sure. You don't have to have concerns about it.
Does that answer your question better, Alicia?
And I will just add, Yang, that more information about that specifically will be certainly sent to the teacher candidates once the third practicum is underway. So that will be sent out to them for sure. So they'll have lots of notice if it's happening during practicum 3.
That's all the question we have so far in the chat. If you have a question regarding the practicum, please post them in the chat box. I think seem to be it.
Great. Wow. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Yang. Thank you, Carolyn. Oh, here's some.
A couple more. Oh, now the questions are coming in now that they know we might be departing.
That's too funny. I saw the question about any recommendations, suggestions for schools with open concept. I recommend earplugs. just joking. Open concept was almost a failed experience in the elementary panel, although it's very, very expensive to retrofit schools. I taught in an open concept. What was really important was the teachers who were it was in a quad. The teachers who were in that quad, we met quite regularly in terms of issues that we were facing, whether it was behavior problems or co-teaching, collaborative teaching. So it's important. Just that you'll have to ask your associate teacher how they handle it and what advice they have for you. One of the things that we found particularly challenges, one of the teachers that we collaborated with had a particularly loud voice, and we could hear him from the opposite end of the corner. So we had to work with the principal in terms of putting up, those cubicle walls, sort of a sound barrier. But that didn't go over well because the visual effect is not very inviting. So my recommendation, it's one of those questions you have to ask your associate teacher in terms of what works best and what expectations they have and what collaborative ventures they engage in with their co-professionals.
Yeah.
Okay, so question following that is to follow up with Alicia's question. Will we have advanced notice when the Western evaluators will be joining us? For example, I do not yet have Practicum 3 placement, so I would prefer one in the 4th one.
Well, we spoke about the placements still to be made this week. So the the fact that you don't have one now won't impact on whether or not you have an evaluation, because we anticipate they'll be made this week. We're very hopeful. And as I said, notice will be sent out to the candidates very early in Practicum 3. And we'll be finalizing that likely ourselves, I would say in the next week or so. Bill and I are involved in a meeting tomorrow. We'll have other meetings towards the end of this week and again early next week. So candidates would be notified very early if in fact an evaluation were happening during Practicum 3. But please see it, and Bill, maybe you can comment on this as well. You know, I would just encourage everybody to see it as a positive experience, you know, an opportunity to have someone observe your teaching, give you some feedback, give you some more ideas and strategies and approaches. The evaluators who will come out to the schools are wonderful professionals who really see it as an opportunity to engage in learning with you. So it will be a really constructive, I think, very positive process. Bill, do you want to comment on that?
Absolutely. I know, I'd say the vast majority, if not all, these individuals, they're all exceptional teachers. They're not looking for perfection. And if you or they feel things are going off the rails, they can come back. They can come back again. The bottom line is to support you, because they understand the importance of their visit. They understand the importance of having a successful experience with them, because you're going to include their notes in your application package. And if it, I'll say it again, if it's not working out, if you feel it's not going well, we can do it again. And we're here to support you, really.
Yeah, that's great.
Okay, and so from Jacqueline is, do you have any advice for us if our teacher does not want to meet until the first morning of school?
Well, if that is the message that they've sent out, then that's fine. You know, we talked about how busy school communities are, and Bill talked about the chaos of the first day. Well, there's chaos this week too, right? And they're busy, and some of them may just be finding out what their assignment is for the upcoming year. So I wouldn't worry about that in terms of preparations to teach a particular class or course. If they want to meet you that first morning, then that's terrific. You know, that's perfectly fine. What you can do ahead of time, again, visit the board website, find out what some of the board priorities are, whatever information you can glean about schools or the board in general from the website would be terrific. But that specific preparation, then the associate teacher is willing to begin with you on day one, and that's perfectly fine. That's perfectly fine. Right, Bill?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. You know, many schools are still going through frantic paces of finishing up renovations. Custodians are still going through frantic process of waxing floors and moving furniture back in. So it's highly likely that the classroom and the teacher's not ready to have you in there. So my advice is email or phone the school office. Ask if there's any information that they can send out to you that's been distributed to the teachers. So at least you get an idea of first day expectations and processes, so that after you meet with your associate teacher, you can just walk right outside and help out with yard supervision. You can go to the office and say, is there anything I can do to help with registration or escorting students to their new classes? Ask the office to send you that school map. So there's lots of stuff you can do if the associate teacher is unable to meet with you until that first day. But don't worry about that. You will be able to adapt. You're a teacher candidate.
That's right.
Thanks, Bill. Another question is, if we do not have any contact information for our associate teacher, should we go ahead and call our placement school?
So I'm assuming in this instance that the candidate knows where he or she is being placed, but they just never received an email address or a phone number. So I would say yes, if you do. Oh, thank you. Janelle said yes, correct. Thanks, Janelle. So I think in those circumstances, it would be fine to call the school, just leave a message for the associate teacher to say that you're calling just to chat about the upcoming practicum. If you don't hear back from them, no problem. As Bill said, things are busy. They may not be ready to meet with you. And then if they are ready, they'll return that call, return that email. I think that's fine in that particular circumstance. We, of course, don't want candidates calling schools trying to arrange a practicum placement. That's not appropriate because school boards have very specific procedures for the ways in which a practicum placement can be set up. But if you already have it, you know the teacher, you know the school, you just don't have the contact information, it would be fine to call and leave a message, and then you'll just have to see what happens from there.
Again, we have reached the end of the questions. If you have more, please post them in the chat box.
It's going to be such a great week for you beginning. Don't you agree, Bill? It's such an exciting time of year, right? There's just this sense that everything is possible, right? The environment in a school at the beginning of the year is so exciting. And really, it's because the whole future of the year lies ahead of you, right? There's so much to look forward to. You'll sense that with the teachers, with the students, the administration. It's a terrific time to be out. You'll just love it.
And I'm a bit jealous because I was never privy to what the first day of school looked like as a teacher candidate. And here you are, able to see how expectations are set up, how a teacher can establish routines and learning about the students and their strengths. This is awesome. And you know what? By the end of the first day, you'll be right into it.
Yeah, yeah. You will. You'll just get caught up in everything and immersed in it all. You'll love it.
Yep. Get a copy of the seating plan, so if you haven't by the end of the first day, you've been able to memorize the names of the students.
Right. Yep. That's another good preparation tactic. Maybe a little bit more challenging at the secondary level because you might have, 3 large classes, let's say, but you work away at it and get your memorization strategy and.
Right.
And then, of course, the seating plans will help you because the teachers, generally speaking, will have seating plans. They'll be learning names as well. And so through, the students will be in the same seats. So that will give you that name reinforcement.
Yep.
Are people nervous or do you feel okay now that it's Practicum 3? You've got 2 experiences behind you. Do you feel okay going out? Hopefully positive and excited.
So I have a poll. If you feel excited and ready for practicum, click yes. If you're not ready, click no.
Super excited.
That's great. Yes, but worried. Open concept and 4-5 split. Yeah. Well, it will be terrific. You'll love it. And of course, there no doubt will be some challenges, but that's where the learning comes in, right? And you don't have to go out, fearing the expectation that you'll be an expert. You're going out as a teacher, but as a learner still. So you have the luxury of being able to explore and try things out with the support of another teacher in the room, your associate teacher. You'll get that mentorship. Just don't feel it's a performance test, right? You're allowed to go out and learn about that open concept situation and how they're managing it. how to deal with a 4-5 split and what that looks like. What are the strategies? You know, this is your opportunity to learn. You don't have to go out already having all of the answers, right?
Well, I'll tell you, if you're in an open concept, you'll nail an interview question dealing with collaborative approach to instruction.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
Well, it's been a blast, everyone. Thank you for participating and joining.
Yeah, just been wonderful. Thank you for the questions. Very good questions. Really appreciate receiving those. And as Yang said, the session has been recorded, so other people can benefit from the questions and responses later. And certainly, should anything else come up that you're wondering about, that you have questions or uncertainties or you know, ongoing thoughts about, certainly feel free to contact us if that would help at all. We are here and we will be on email all week, so happy to help.
Yeah, we're going through a happy new year too.
That's right. That's right. Ours has started. We're back into it this week.
That's right. Take care, everybody.
Thanks, everyone. Good
Thank
luck
you.
and enjoy it all. Take care.
Thanks for coming.